I would like to pass the floor to Mr. Vázquez. Earlier in the year, the European Parliament adopted an initiative report on this matter, containing several provisions with arguably important consequences for businesses. How can European lawmakers avoid a legal patchwork of national legislative initiatives on this matter? Several of them are right now on the table in national parliaments. How can we avoid the situation while also avoiding the likely increase of reporting costs and burdens for small companies? Mr. Vázquez.
Good morning. Well, first of all, thank you to EuroChambres for inviting me, and for the colleagues that are here. It's a pity that we don't have anyone from the European Commission, that I'm sure they could have given us a good insight on how this future new directive on corporate due diligence and corporate accountability is coming. Well, as you said, the European Parliament, the Jury Committee also approved an own initiative report that what we are doing is calling to the Commission to bring a new directive on corporate due diligence and corporate accountability. The approach that we took from our committee, well, it wasn't an easy report. The Parliament was very divided at the beginning because we were very extreme positions. I'm going to take one of the things that the German colleague has said, that some people see the German law that does not go far enough on due diligence. And here we have that extreme on one side, and then on the other, and replying to your questions, those who are very worried about how this new directive could increase exponentially the cost and burdens, not only of smaller companies, of any European company, that can actually diminish their competitiveness worldwide. So I think that the report that went out is balanced. Basically, if the Commission takes on board our two main proposals, will be the first one. Basically, what the Parliament wants companies to do when they operate outside of the Union is, of course, to always keep in mind that we need to fully respect, of course, human rights. That goes without saying, social conditions and environmental protection. And that always goes if you have a good control of your supply chains. However, not all the companies have the same capacity to control their supply chains. It depends on the size of the companies, and the number of employees, as well in the sectors they work on. When it comes to the legal patchwork and how national parliaments will manage to put this into action in their countries. As you know, once the directive comes to the Parliament, we're still at the very beginning of the legislative process, so there's still a lot of time to go. I believe that looking at the current situation, with all the problems we have with supply and with transport, I foresee that the Commission maybe now is not that eager to push this file forward on a speed track. I would say that they want to wait a little bit for the storm to calm down. At least that's what I would do if I were them. But basically, when the whole legislative process finished, then all the national parliaments, as we all know, they will have 2 years to do the transposition of the European law. And I think that time, maybe it's not enough for some companies, but it's a lot of time from them to prepare the companies and adapt their structure and organization to comply with the new European regulation on due diligence. Also, we have to take into mind that having 27 different national laws transposing the general principles of this directive can result in legislative fragmentation. And of course, this is the main problem when it comes to extra costs for companies that they operate in different new countries at the same time, and also when they operate abroad. So that's the other thing that we have to keep in mind. When it comes to the second element of the questions, and I'm going to get back also how this can increase the cost burden of smaller companies, of SMEs. Myself, I push a lot, and also my group, to support the introduction of special conditions for SMEs that were not in the first draft of the text. And a result of that pressure with other colleagues, I think that the exceptions that in our report we demand to SMEs are good, because what we want to avoid is disproportionate administrative and regulatory burdens on the small and medium businesses. Particularly, what we put on the text, and that was one of my key fights, was to define those who are publicly listed or they operate in high risk sectors. As the OECD colleague mentioned, when it comes, for example, for mineral business, that there is already a very forward regulation that was approved in the last term in the parliament, that those companies that they operate in such high risk sectors, they need extra care. That's why we are going to demand them to have many more obligations when it comes to control the supply chain and to make sure that human rights, social condition, and environmental protection is met. Then, when it comes to the micro undertakings, we excluded from the text, but I have to be sincere. There are a lot of political groups here and MEPs that they want to do that micro undertaking, and that I think that's what can actually hit hard on SMEs and also in other companies, because it will definitely kill the competitiveness of many of our European companies. So that's, for me, it's one of my red lines, and I think also for Europe. And last but not least, we also include that we need to help as well to these SMEs, how they're gonna couple with this new legislation that is coming. The two things that we include, the first one is, of course, support and help for guidance, information, how to fulfill this new regulation. And the second one is finance aids to also help them to perform properly their obligations when the new directive will come. And last but not least, because I want to take more time on my introduction, we also have to take into account that with the pandemic, with the supply crisis we have, with all the things that are going on in the world, I think that is good that the European Union and its institutions are ambitious when it comes to due diligence. And of course, we always have to be very ambitious to protect human rights, social conditions, and environmental protection. But we also have to take into mind that we need to keep European companies competitive. And of course, they will get under the bridge, and they will comply sooner or later, but we have to do it in a way that they are ready to actually comply and keep being competitive. We cannot move too fast, and because if we move too fast, we may push some companies to stop their businesses in some parts of the world. Thank you.